Hi, this is Sherry Ray. Thank you very much for dropping in to listen to this episode of Connected Living, Truths and Understandings for the Business of Life. I'd appreciate it greatly if you'd click the subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. In this episode of Connected Living, we're going to be talking about stopping recycling. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. I'm not talking about stopping recycling of rubbish and trash. I'm referring to the way that our minds recycle habits of thought that keep you feeling stuck and limited. In this fun conversation, we explore how our habits of thought limit us from seeing more of what's possible in our relationships, career, and what matters most to you in your life. Stop recycling. And when I say stop recycling, it was an insight that came to me that was waking up to habits of thought that I was asleep to. Okay. So I don't know anybody that doesn't want to live in a better feeling, just day to day, just live in a better feeling, or to live with what I'm calling vacation mind. And so when you think about vacation mind, if you even reflect in your own experience, if you're having a great vacation, how would you describe what vacation mind would be for you?
Peaceful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
I would say
Relaxing. Yep.
undistracted.
Undistracted. Yep. Yep. You're not to me it kind of seems like with vacation mind, when we go on vacation, somehow we've given ourselves permission to take the day-to-day stuff that we carry in our head off the table.
Yeah, like no worries or no commitments.
No worries, no commitments. I'm giving my
You just
week.
be. You just be.
Exactly. So you have a week off from your week off from your habits of thought, is what, or just a week off from any mental demands, is a way of also looking at it. And do you notice when you're in vacation mind that life feels richer, easier, just simpler, that kind of thing? So that's your natural state of being. Natural state of being. Like before we burdened ourselves with so many concerns, we were very, very natural. And it felt, when we were little, we didn't even register that it was vacation mind. But now that we've gotten older, we kind of have to, to me, I have to notice vacation mind is really just a natural, clear head. Because we've added up so many concerns that we keep our mind going. Or another way is like we have so much repetitive thought on what I call hot topics. And everybody has some hot topics that their mind, it looks to me like everybody does. If you don't, yeehaw, I'm happy for you. I'm not one of those people. But it seems to me like we all have hot topics in our head that even if things are going great, our mind tends to get concerned about. So like this happened, this insight about recycling thoughts came to me when I was trying to sell my mother's house, and everything I didn't work. 4 contracts, things aren't going, everything's that could break. I mean, everything. And I noticed that my mind started to really obsess on this house getting sold to where it would wake me up at night. It just wouldn't stop. It just wouldn't stop. And it was like, even watching it, if being a witness to it, there wasn't a thing I could do about it. it was almost like mind gone wild. It just would default to this topic again and again and again and again and again. And it was so frustrating because it was, burdening my mind, robbing me of my sleep, and thinking and really convincing me that my dissatisfaction or my unhappiness was due to this house not selling, and all that had to happen was this house needed to sell, and then I could go back to being in a peaceful state of mind. Well, what was so clever, when this insight came, it was like, well, okay, that house got sold finally, put to bed. Then I noticed here my mind starts to obsess on something else. And then I started to notice, and I was like, what is it? I started to notice there's a habit that just in my head that my mind has a habit of obsessing or defaulting to not so much content, but what I noticed was with this insight was like it would default to something I could not make an impact on, I could not control, or I was powerless over. Like, and that could be people, that could be events, that could be anything. So I was so grateful. It's like, oh my gosh, I see that my mind will recycle on a hot topic, and it doesn't matter what the topic is, but it tended to be something that I couldn't impact, control, or make change, no matter how hard I tried. And I was really powerless over it. So I noticed that when the insight came in, it was like, oh my gosh, when my mind doesn't have something, if my mind is free or in vacation mind, I have kind of like this sonar radar mind that looks for something that is beyond my control to obsess on, and it can just do it again and again and again. So I was like, gosh, I'm just recycling the topic of things I can't control. I'm recycling it kind of looked like things I can't impact and can't control. And it just happens. I was like, wow, when I had that insight about stop recycling this stuff, there will always be things in life I cannot control. I have limited, if any, impact. And can I wake up to when I'm back to recycling it again? Because I was asleep to it. It always looked like fresh content or a fresh concern that needed my mental bandwidth. So when I was thinking about this, knowing that what deteriorates my experience of life is how much burden I have in my head, how much of a load I'm carrying, how full my head is. It's when vacation mind goes away, it's no longer clear. I'm no longer carefree. All of a sudden, my mind has forayed into a topic that it's almost like kryptonite. I can't, it hooks me. So I was thinking, as we talked about this morning, if you reflected for just a moment about what might be habits or repetitive thinking that you get, maybe it's about, I'll put air quotes, impossible people in your life. Maybe it's about career. Maybe it's about your health. Maybe it's about aging. Maybe it's about just any circumstance that you don't like or your mind is not in agreement with. And so I was going to say, just kind of take a second to let yourself lean into that headspace to see if you notice a habit or a repetitive pattern of where you find yourself spending a lot of time inside your head.
No, I know one, I think it keeps coming up is if anything were to happen to my husband, Like my mother, when my dad died, she was just in super limbo. And Larry had to take his mom to Louisiana for one night for luncheon. And the whole night I was thinking, and I told him, be careful because if people can T-bone you. And when he came back, I said, you know what? I like to be prepared. If something were to happen to you, I don't know anything about his brother. I don't know his doctor. I don't know about his dad's in Brookdale. And I said, I like to be prepared and plan in case something were to happen. Or if, and the whole, and this comes up all the time. If something happens to him, oh my gosh, I have to sell this place in Calvert or this or that. I can't take care of these places. And can I do it on my, I mean, it's like, I want to be prepared, but that keeps rolling over in my mind all the time.
That's a great one. That's a great one, Wendy. Anybody else notice where their head goes?
I think for me, I have to continually remind myself every morning not to worry about things that are out of, that aren't in my control. And it's usually projects that I'm working on, or I don't think both of my daughters are in college and I don't worry about them on a daily basis, thank goodness. But it's more, I think, of work and things I have to do. People, I think I'm getting much better about just letting go of that. But I think it's mostly just projects that I'm working on, and I think it's more of when I'm depending on other people for the outcome, I guess, because I don't have control over it, so I'm depending on other people.
Exactly. And that part about just noticing how often it comes in.
Yeah.
How often it comes in, because that dumbs down your vacation state of mind, in that we can't do anything about the fact that stuff shows up on the scene. But I loved, Jennifer, that you see that, and Wendy too, it's like you kind of see where your mind will default to if it gets an opportunity. If things are really, if you really check out your life and things are going well, there's no imminent danger at this moment. At this moment, you've got a roof over your head, you have plenty of food. We're so quick to leave this moment and go into the what ifs. And especially like with Wendy's example, it's like you can only prepare so much, and truly, you can never anticipate how you're going to feel or what you're going to do if something were to go drastically or tragically wrong. You can't. So it's almost like, wait a minute, let me wake up to the fact that I can't know what that's going to feel like. It's going to be one of those once in a lifetime things that you've never experienced. So you don't know how you're going to show up. Every situation is different. So even using that bandwidth to consider how you're going to be if something tragically goes wrong, you don't know. So you could really have a desire to not foray into that, because it truly is no way to anticipate. I mean, yes, do the legal work, you know what I mean? Get anything that would help you, a hot list of numbers to call and this and that, or whatever comes to mind about that. And then you have to put it down and let it go. And the same with Jennifer's example about, because if we're in the world and we do have to collaborate with people to move the ball down the field or to do things, if we don't assign our self-worth to the outcome of any situation, we can allow ourselves to break the habit of obsessing on outcome. That can be a real habit of recycling all that thinking about, are they going to do what they're going to do? Is they going to do what they're going to say? All of that is just flooding, coming in and just taking that space that we have the potential to look away from and to learn from those repetitive habits. That recycling, if you notice, recycling those thoughts, whether it's in facing a tragedy or trying to get people to do things in a way that I think that they need to do things so we can get the outcome. You can see that. Has it helped? Probably not. I mean, it's worn you out, probably. It's exhausted you. It's taken the real, it's just gonna be exhausting, I guess is one way to say it. And it's exhausting because it just keeps coming up if we're asleep to it. So does anybody else kind of in reflection have a hot topic or something that just seems to come back again and again and again? Lisa.
Well, I usually have something to obsess over. Usually I know what I am, as I am doing it. Recently it's been either, my tenant who I think I can fix, and that one has proved, incorrect. And then, as you just said, and then the other one is like, I have 2 cars that, I obsess over those. Did I make the right decision? This and that and everything. So I like to, obsess of that. It's like I sort of like it in a way. And then I'm like, okay, that's enough. That's enough. Just stop. And I just stop. But the real big one for me is always, what's the next stage of my life? I'm going to be destitute and poor and homeless on the street, and I'm not going to have anybody to take care of me. Yeah.
Mhm,
So that's
mhm.
that's probably the one that comes back and jabs me. It goes away. It doesn't stay, because I know it's not fun to think about that. It's not a good idea to think about that because I might just bring it on. But it still comes back and kicks me in the ass every once in a while.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah.
And it's quite mysterious to me, and it always has been, how we have a mind that is part of us, but it's not on our team. It's just a mystery to me how we can have a part of us that goes to the top. It seems to know the topics that almost takes us to our knees. And then when we're, the more we look into that topic when it comes up, the more debilitating it is to our capacities as a human being. And also, it takes up all of the bandwidth for anything fresh to occur to you about anything in the next steps of your life. It takes up all the airwave space. And then we feel stuck and stagnant and stale and exhausted and stressed out and burnt out because it just keeps coming back around. It's almost like camouflage, where you think you're on a fresh topic, you're kind of noticing a fresh topic. And then if you kind of notice it again, it's like,
It's like a boomerang. It comes back and hits you.
comes back and hits you again. So it's quite mysterious to me how we have this part of us that just looks for our vulnerabilities and maybe, I never thought about this, but maybe in some divine order, it finds these vulnerabilities to wake us up to the fact it's not true. That has to take us to our knees to wake us up and go,
Well, I mean, I thought it was very interesting that you said that you had obsessions that, you really didn't have any control over. And I mean, that's always seems to be the case. It's like, why would we have an obsession of something we really don't have any control over? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I know, but it still comes back around, like the nature of life. Or even like if you were looking at how the current status of the world, if you want to go globally. And it's like how much of that, that's an obvious thing you have limited control over or limited impact. You do what you can or you do what you're drawn to do, but you're beyond that, it's a place to stop obsessing on it because you've done all you can do and you can relax and rely on fresh thinking about what you could do. But to continue to carry that topic in your head, looking into it, hoping to see something, a solution, you're not going to see something fresh. You're going to just keep recycling from what your mind thinks is possible, and just keeps going around and around and around and around and around. Now, fortunately, you'll get some sleep, take a rest, and maybe you'll wake up with a fresh idea, but you're going to notice that happened because you took your eye off the ball. You have to get out of it. You have to get out of it in order to see something fresh around it.
You mean you need to like direct your thinking towards something more positive that you're able to control in a way, or
well, I don't even think you have to do that so much as if you like get in this moment. Get in this moment, not even manage anything that comes into your head, but just come back, get into this moment. And maybe even in your habits of recycling, you can see that maybe it's not the things you can control, but even if it was like all the yesterdays that weren't right, how many ways that the mind goes back to all the yesterdays that weren't right. And it's like, okay. And then it's like, okay, well, if that didn't get her, let's worry about the future. So, and all that takes away vacation mind. All that takes away the potential of a better experience in this moment. I love that idea of like, gosh, how much headspace would become available for a better experience if we did not reflect on yesterdays, if we gave up all the yesterdays. It's like, wow, just that would be a tremendous amount of available space for new ideas, new thought, new inspirations, new possibilities. Not trying to go into all those yesterdays about could it have been different, could I have been different, I should have been different. All of that. And then all the tomorrows, if whatever will we have tomorrows, what's going to happen tomorrow. So we don't even have to worry about the content, but it's like, wait a minute, if I can just come back to this moment and be able to be a witness to what the games our mind plays. Just to be a witness to it is a tremendous amount of leverage in my book. To see it versus to be drowning in it is a very, very different place to sit in the world. You're still powerless over what's going to pop into your head, but being a witness to it versus drowning in it is very, very different. To me, if you're a witness to it, there's more than what the mind's making up about anything. If you're drowning in it, you don't think there's anything else.
This is going crazy because I've just been listening to a lot of seminars and it's going over a lot of this. It's like, but it says a lot of your, neutral thinking, a lot of what you're thinking, your thoughts are, what is it? Oh, shoot. It says, what you're thinking is all like subconscious, and you can come back and say, how do you want to be, today? And you can have filters of all those people who tell you this is it, limiting beliefs of how they make you feel. And then just change those filters and just do new thoughts, put those new thoughts into practice and action, and give your brain new thoughts.
Well, it didn't have to be even that much work. It could be even if we go back to our natural state of being, like when we were little kids, we weren't burdened. We weren't burdened, and that's, to me, that's a place of relaxing into that truth that we kind of came in without burdens. in the same
You
way
know,
that
they
we
always
carry them
Be
today.
more like childlike, be more childlike and have fun. And
That I heard, I don't know if this is a direct quote, but I did hear this quote the other day that somebody was crediting it to Winnie the Pooh. And it was, this is my best day. Today is my best day ever, or something like that. I'll have to go to Google and look it up. But I love that idea of every day being the best day ever. So
well, I always say, I'm going to be the best I can be today.
yeah, with my foot. I like that, Wendy. Whether my foot is in my mouth or not, I'm going to be the best I can be today. And that's the best I could be today, whether I stepped in it or I put my foot in my mouth or whatever. It's like, that's the best I could be today. And that's not a problem. Janet.
I think I land somewhere on the spectrum below you on this, but because I get what you're saying, absolutely. And I learned practical ways to stop spiraling thoughts when I was in college, and it worked great. But I will say that, like, I've just come off vacation, right? And I came home to a mess in which I had to immediately, because the 180-day time period was going to pass, spend 6 hours the day after I got home on the phone with insurance companies and medical providers, clearing up stuff that they misdid, like prior authorizations that supposedly didn't exist, but me having to show them yes indeed and give them the authorization number, going back and forth. This was 6 hours worth of yeah, as I say it, no food, no drink, on the phone with these people. And that was really, really unpleasant. And that definitely took me out of a vacation mode. But what came to my mind while you're talking is, I don't know if you've done this before, but when you load a new app on your phone or you use it for the first time, it asks you, for instance, like location selections, and one of the selections is allow only while using the app. So maybe I'm with you. I think life can be totally non-vacation like out of necessity. We all have to do jobs we don't want to do that sometimes take huge hunks of our day or week. But maybe I'm only going to be concerned while I'm using that app, while I'm when I'm actually doing the unpleasant work.
Well, that's a great metaphor, Janet, because it's like, I like the idea metaphor too of like, if there's a brain surgeon in my head correcting things, I want that brain surgeon to be as present inside my head while what's happening needs to happen. I don't want that brain surgeon worried about the relationships they've got, or did they double park, or I need to get my license plates renewed, or you know what I mean? Like, when they're inside my head, I want them to be super present so they can really use all of their training and their intuitiveness for what might be needed at that moment. So that to me speaks exactly to use it while you're in the app and then let it go. And I kind of like the idea. It's like, oh my God, how grateful that I was here before the 180 days is up and I could jump on this and knock it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also sometimes, I think, have to know how your mind works enough to know when that was enough, when you know that your brain can't do anymore right now. And so there were still some unresolved issues, but I realized that my brain was out of the capacity at that point after 6 hours on the phone to have any new ideas or approaches to solving some of the unresolved parts of it. And I think it's hard to say, you know what? I don't have any more right now. I'm not going to do a good job if I keep doing this.
I think that's great. I think that's great, Janet. I think it's the same thing happens in relationships. If you're trying to have a conversation with someone and it's gone off the rails, or you're in the weeds and you can't listen, or you don't have any desire to listen and you can't make yourself listen, it's like, I'm past the point of productive. I'm going to stop this because there's nothing really, I can't even be present to this. And that to me is kind of really being aware when it wouldn't be helpful to override. Or an athlete, you know what I mean? Like an athlete that's pushing their body too hard and it goes to an injury status or something.
That's
It's
all
like,
you got. That's it.
that's it. But as human beings, how can we embrace that as like just being human and not being a weenie, or not being enough, or not being this, or not being that? It's just like, you know what, I'm at capacity and that's it. No harm, no foul. That's part of being human, and I can accept my humanness.
Yeah.
Done. And a lot of times when you say you're done, and then you kind of give yourself permission to stop and you catch your breath or go get a glass of water, you come back and it's like, oh, I'm going to make that call right now because I could, you know, somehow you found some sort of reserves of resilience, not because you were overdriving it and pushing it, but just because your resilience came back quicker than you thought.
Yeah. What did you say? There was something about when you take your eyes off the ball for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that permission to say I'm exhausted, and it's like, sure, well, human beings get exhausted. That doesn't mean anything about me. Human beings get exhausted, or they just don't have the attention span anymore. Again, the habit would be what your mind is going to make up about you, and it might grab from the past. Oh my God, you never stick with anything, you never finish anything, or you know what I mean? Whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, that's where it's like, just hold it in the place of this is part of being human in the story. And that allows it to take it off your mind, and then more times than not, something fresh occurs to you, a fresh reserve of energy, a fresh idea.
Yeah, I've heard you say many times, if it's what your mind makes up, and it's almost just it sort of just floats by a lot of times, and if you literally let that land, it's like, oh, making this all up, like I'm making myself miserable.
Yes.
It's almost like it's the same thing, and I don't have to do that. I can do something else and just be in the moment, like you said. Yeah. So yeah, but it's what your mind makes up. It's of the past and the future.
Yeah.
And
Yes. 60
yeah.
minutes will go by, if 60 minutes will go by, but it's like, it's so neutral. It's so neutral. But what if, your mind is stuffing that 60 minutes with its assessment of your shortcomings or whatever? All of a sudden that went from neutral, just time passing, to a real burden on your presence on the planet.
Because it's so easy to believe it.
It's so compelling to believe it. And especially, I kind of think about if coming back to giving up all those yesterdays, it's like, if we didn't have all those yesterdays, it would be like, like, like if the thought comes in my head, oh, you never finish, you never stick with anything. It wouldn't link up to a comment my grandfather made to me when I was young about being too spontaneous and not sticking with it. You know what I mean? You give up all that stuff where the mind is collecting evidence and connecting it to the yesterdays, and then all of that floods you, which makes that believability even higher because now we've got evidence to support that thought. So the mind is such a great Perry Mason in collecting evidence. So it's like, give up the yesterdays, and you made it this far. I can promise you're going to be grand from this point forward. You can't avoid any happenings in life, but you're going to respond to them brilliantly. Which is, I think, the place of that in this just recycling old topics, looking for new information. It seems counterintuitive to not look into all those repetitive topics in order to see something fresh. Because the habit has been to look into those topics when they come up. So counterintuitive and counter habitual are two different things. Just because it's a familiar pattern, we think it's intuitive. It's like, no, that could just be a habit. Just notice those topics that come up. You know, you can as you notice the topics that come up that have probably you visited more times than you can even acknowledge, that you really can start to make a choice not to look into them further. If you just start to notice that that's not going to be the place where fresh information comes from. Going into it further. Bobby, yes.
You know, I made a list and it occurs to me that a whole lot of, there's all but one of them, I think, maybe two, that I do have control over. You know, there are things that, you know, like I could use this as a to-do list. And but it's things that I think about and think about and think about and don't take action on. And then it occurred to me that sometimes when I'm painting, first it made me think, well, okay, say I've got a clear mind, and that's kind of scary. Just like when I'm painting, if I think, well, if I finish this, then what? You know, so it's kind of like that's kind of I just noticed that that's a reason to keep my mind where it is, and to keep my painting uh, where it is, as opposed to having a clear mind and fresh thought that, you know, well, I don't know what's going to show up, and that's kind of unsettling. So there's that.
No, but I think what you're pointing to is so common. You know, it's like we'd rather dance with the devil we know than that what we don't know. And it's like, but wow, you know, because I don't think it's sold to us that what's not known could be very fulfilling and enriching. You know, love could fill that space versus fear, because we're pumped with so much mitigating fear. And that, you know, the unknown has been kind of pitched that it's booga booga. It's not a place to relax into a deeper feeling of life or a deeper sense of loving or being loved or something like that. It's just not pitched to us that way. But I think it's a place to consider. That open space, if we think about it, like a kid's head, open space, they're much more resilient and they're much more connective. You know, their moments of upset are much shorter than their moments of free-mindedness and play. So that the naturalness, really, to me, the naturalness of kids shows that empty space is a place of peace and relaxation, unless I was taught to be concerned about what I don't know.
Well,
They don't know not to be concerned about what they don't know. That's taught.
Well, hopefully you changed my mind.
And you know, to me, the best way to kind of play with this is to, if you're curious, that the best way to learn is to be open to seeing something fresh, and also being open to just seeing like what we've talked about in the world. Just be open to see it. Maybe it's in a movie, maybe it's in just people at work you notice at work. You know, you can notice, if you're just willing to notice how some people, and it's not some people, because we're all people, you know, it's all of us. It's but just noticing that I want to see more about my own habits of thought, and that's enough. Not cure it. It's not an incurable disease. It's just like, just be more willing to be open to seeing what you haven't seen. That takes away the natural joy of life. And I think as our culture, we're more oriented to, like I said, mitigating fear than opening to love. I love you said that, because it's like, you know, you can make a nest in a painting and you don't want to leave, you know, and you just don't want to leave. It's like just facing the blank page, whether you're a painter or a writer or a new job, you know, leaving an old job, people, or even a relationship, they're like, oh, well, I'll just stay where I am because that one I know. But that what I don't know feels ominous. And it's like, yeah, but what if it's, you know, the universe knocking and inviting you out to a richer experience? You got just as much possibility of that as you do a booga booga. And just having a desire to see more is the what will propel you to see more. Just a desire, not a need, you know, not a solving a problem, but just a desire to wake up more to the habits of your mind. Wake up to the fact that all the thinking and grinding on these recycled topics are dampening your experience of life. They're not bringing you anything except dampening your experience of life, or burdening your mind's another way of putting it.
Yeah, I have a sheet for habits. It has like 10 things down there. And like this, you can switch your mind and just write, instead of a hat, you know, just write down each little line for the week, a new thought or a new way you want to wake up in the morning, and then just put it down in that piece instead of a new habit. And it could be a habit, but your thought, change your thought to the way you want to wake up the next morning. How do you want to wake up? Do you want to wake up happy? Do you want to wake up encouraging? Oh, my video's not off. I'm sorry. Do you want to be encouraging? Do you want to be, you know, wake up, or write down the way you want to wake up tomorrow on each one of those rows, and check off each day that you wake up with those feelings.
Yeah, and your own wisdom will support you in whatever direction you want to look at. Everyone's wisdom will be in support of where you want to, you know, if you want to live in a better feeling, if you want to, I don't know, you know, if you want to love your life more. I like that one. That one occurred to me recently. It's like, okay, I want to love my life more. And it was like, I'm open. Show me. Because, you know, I don't know, my mind will, like I said, will default to the one speck on the wall that's, you know, it will obsess on that one thing that it makes up is not okay. But that's just kind of becoming self-aware about the patterns and habits of your mind. It's like, I don't want to. So just open the door. Invite the invitation for the universe to deliver some, you know, how can I love my life more? better than worry. In my book.
And it seems like that requires very little effort,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
which is really appealing to me.
Yes, yes, yes. Because really you're pointing toward your natural state of being. Like I said, when we were little kids, before we got all these ideas, we were very natural. I love that idea. It's not, you don't need a technique to be you.
Yeah. I mean, I listened to someone this morning about there were these plants that were all dug out that were rose hips, which are typical around the beach areas, but they're now considered an invasive species that they have to dig all out. And,
Oh, wow.
so it's kind of sad, but I mean, it went on to like, this is the state of the world and, really depressing for her. And, it was sad, but I mean, and I just and I just mentioned, well, maybe something new will grow there, and it's like just trying to replace a really constricting, negative, depressing thought with something that kind of feels a little tiny bit better, or just having a new thought, like you said, sometimes can make all the difference between a really bad day and a really good day.
Are you kidding me? It changes, a simple shift can change how you see and experience life. The simplest little something. The simplest little something can just shine a totally different light on the world you're experiencing. Yeah. Cool. Any questions or anything else about the topic of habits and recycling, reviewing, reliving, thought, noticing that it's thought in the moment. Whatever, so much of that stuff, it's not so much of what I'm talking about. I don't think any of it's happening right now. If it's just in the shape of thoughts, like you're not experiencing this moment, you're thinking of the moment. So it's always an opportunity to see something else.
Well, I just had an observation that it's just it seems like there's a wavelength in our brains that wants to obsess, it feels like it to me in my mind, like it. And if it's not an issue of the past or the future, it has to be like a song, that just has to repeat itself over and over in my head. It just feels like it's the nature of my mind that it wants to do that. And I can sort of say, okay, that's enough of that. I've noticed that I can do that. And sometimes it just goes away. And it's like, wow, how about that? I guess I wasn't, I'm not feeding it. So if I'm not.
Yeah. If you're not feeding it, goes away. Because even like right now, can you tell me exactly what thought was in your head 6.5 minutes ago? You can't, you know what I mean? Because they come in, they go out, they come in, they go out, they're lining up, they come in, they go out. So it's like, wow, if the less I do with them, they'll,
Huh.
they'll move on.
Goodbye.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of Connected Living. My name is Sherry Ray. I work with individuals and teams that want to live and work more collaboratively and peacefully. Please share this episode with anyone that you feel like might benefit. Thank you again for listening.